Currently, Daniel is the Information Support Service Director for the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The ISS section provides GIS services to the department and supports the Multi-Hazard Threat Database, a web-based system with several regulatory programs and a record management application. He represents Agricultural Commissioner Steve Troxler on the Geographic Information Coordinating Council and is the chair of the GIS Technical Advisory Committee. Daniel?
So they say the best is last. What does that make the guy that goes 8:30 in the morning first speak? I don't know. I think I'm the wake-up guy, so we're going to do a little wake-up exercise here. So anybody from a county government that deals with creating parcels or in land records? What county are you with? Durham. Okay. So raise your hand if you use parcel data. Okay. And go ahead and leave your hands up. Leave your hands up nice and tall. So put your hand down if you help create parcel data. And a lot of hands went down. Okay. So put your hand down if you help standardize parcel data or help pay for the statewide parcel coverage. So there's only 2 free riders in here apparently, but thank the guy in the back that does parcel data because we all use parcel data every day and it's really important. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think parcel data is so important, but we're going to do one more exercise because we had about half participation there. So raise your hand if you'd love to live next to a swine farm. Just me? Raise your hand if you'd love to live next to a chicken farm with like 20,000 chickens. Just me? Really? So raise your hand if you'd love to live right underneath airport runway where planes are leaving at all hours of the night and flying real low even in the dark. Not even me. Okay, so the North Carolina Department of Agriculture thinks that what we call working lands, aka agricultural lands or lands in forest, make good neighbors with military partners or military bases, be it a bombing range, whatever. But in North Carolina, we're actually having a lot of encroachment where people want to build right next to the bombing range and then complain that they bomb right over there. Well, yeah, actually, we knew that before you moved in. So anyway, the North Carolina Department of Agriculture is creating something called the Land Advantage Tool. And we're working with the Clean Water Management Trust Fund and the Marine Corps Installations East, aka Camp Lejeune and all the military bases in North Carolina. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a website, interactive GIS website, where landowners can sit down with land trusts or even their local soil and water conservation district, and they look up their parcel, and then they can tell us what characteristics of that parcel might be suitable for different conservation programs, such as the ADFP or the Clean Water Management Trust Fund, for example. So where are we right now? We're pretty far in development. We've got it close to done. We are doing testing. Actually, our clean water folks, not only are they paying almost half, but they're doing a lot of our testing for us. I don't know how many of you guys build applications and try to get people to test them and tell you what they like or don't like, but clean water is much better at that than our end users, so that's a great partnership there. We're having a little bit of performance problems that we're working out. But again, our purpose is to help a landowner identify your parcel has streams, your parcel has wetlands, whatever, and then these are the conservation programs that may be suited for your parcel, your piece of land. So this is a little bit about what it looks like, and we've got the Google API in it. So if you can find it on Google Maps, you should be able to find it on our viewer. You can search by a road name, you can search by an intersection, you can even search on things like Dare Bombing Range, and it's amazing it finds it. But basically, in a lot of these parcels that we're dealing with are vacant properties. They don't have a 100 Main Street physical address, so we're pretty happy with how it searches. And you'll notice here in the bottom left-hand corner, I was talking about parcels earlier, here the parcels are displayed. So this is a very parcel-centric tool. We're using the heck out of the NC1 map statewide parcels. But basically, once you zoom far enough down that you can identify a parcel, you can click on a parcel. And here's an example of what would happen if you left-clicked on a parcel. Basically, I have a parcel information tab, and we are just stealing the nice gentleman's parcel data and the attributes that come with the NC1 map standardized parcels. Additionally, what we're doing, we have been working with several military partners, getting some of their military bases and some of their areas of interest, i.e. areas that they might be able to contribute to conserve. And so basically in this example here, we, the North Carolina Department of Agriculture, have gotten the federal government to designate 33 counties in eastern North Carolina as Sentinel landscape counties. What does that mean? It means basically they're going to be a higher priority for some of the military funding. We are also talking here about some other military priorities. This is coming into the Dare bombing range, so it happens to be the Air Force. This is the approach to the Dare bombing range. And so the Air Force is very interested in conserving that land, aka keeping it farms instead of residential subdivisions. And lastly, there's a general statute, GS 143, that talks about tall structures and where you can and can't put cell towers, where you can and can't put windmills without getting special permits or permissions. And we have a geodesic data set of all those installations that they describe. And basically, this piece of land is in that as well. So lastly, our conservation partnership areas. So the best thing to have on your property, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to be in conservation, is a stream. That puts you in a lot of different eligibility for different programs. But basically, coming down through this list, we have identified with the Clean Water Management Trust Fund GIS layers that correspond to eligibility for certain programs. So, we have the NWI wetlands data set, and it's a pretty good first stab. If it's in the NWI, it's definitely a wetland. But there's a lot of things out there that could probably qualify for wetland restoration programs. And so here we're actually looking at hydric soils because it's one of the 3 things that you need to build out a wetland. And again, we're working with the Natural Heritage Program, so things like the Natural Heritage Managed Areas. If you're already preserved for conservation, we're not going to put you in another program. So I'm not going to try to read this slide. It's not meant to read the slide, but basically we're looking at both state programs and federal programs. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to stack and leverage. The ADFP only has so much money. The Clean Water Management Trust Fund only has so much money. So the theory is if we can find 3 programs that you might qualify for, including military REPI dollars, we might be able to take, a third of it from the military, a third of it from this program, a third of it from that program, so forth and so on. So again, I'm not going to read the slide to you, but ultimately the purpose of the Land Advantage tool is to write and make a report. So this is the first page, and I've broken the report up into a whole bunch of screens so that those of you that aren't sitting in the back row can read it. If you're sitting in the back row, I apologize, you still can't read it. But basically, based on certain attributes that we're getting out of the GIS data, we're going to identify the different conservation programs. And obviously for this example, I picked a pretty extreme example that qualifies for potentially lots of programs. But this is essentially the essence of what we're doing here. So the Wetlands Conservation Fund, you're probably going to have a wetland on your parcel, right, to qualify for that. And then a lot of ags money and a lot of forestry money, you have to have tree canopy, or forest on your property. A lot of our ADFP stuff, you also need to have agriculture. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that moving forward. But basically, knowing that you have forest on your property or an ag land on your property, I'm specifically talking about crops here, is important to some of our conservation programs. So still in the report, we know what programs you're qualifying for. We have a section there, but just to kind of simplify it in case there's a program that we're missing and there's a new program, we also go through and say, yes, you have ag land, yes, you have tree canopy. In this case, we're estimating in this property about 86% of the property has got a tree canopy on it. Got a little bit ahead of myself, but again, whether or not there's ag land use is relevant to us. So I'm going to talk about this in a little bit more detail, but this particular parcel that I had done the report on actually had croplands on it. Just totally digressing for a minute. Anybody have backyard chickens? What do you do? What do you do when their hen is spent? What do you do with the hen afterwards? See, that's the kind of retirement program I want. So you just keeps on living. I want that. Okay. So moving forward, the U.S. Forest Service actually has a subset of the National Land Cover data set. And what they've done is they've done analysis in the raster to tell you essentially their best guess of if that cell is forest land cover or not. And so what we do in one of our tools here, it's hard to see on the next slide, but on the left is that NLCD tree canopy data set. And then in red is good old-fashioned parcel data. And so what we've done is we've written a Python script here. You can see parcels A, B, C, and D, where this mean value right here is what we're estimating, and yes, it's just an estimate, and no, I don't know, that's an ESRI thing that has 5 decimal places, but basically we're estimating that parcel A is about 25% tree canopy. So you can look at the aerial photography on the right and decide for yourself if you think that's about 25%, but what we've played with, we've been pretty happy with the results that we've gotten back. So again, a guy named Brian who works for us, he wrote a Python script. It's pretty short, but it goes against the NLCD data and basically goes through parcel by parcel and estimates the percent tree canopy. So the USDA has an agency called FSA, the Farm Service Agency, and they create a GIS data set county by county where they digitize every single field. So let's say I have a 100-acre piece of land and I have 4 fields where I rotate my crops. They actually map those 4 fields separate. It's a great data set, but unfortunately, because of the 2008 Farm Bill, there's some confusion on whether or not they can share it. So the last time we got the data, it was about probably 10% shy of what's really out there. They have different programs. So for example, if you want crop insurance, you have to have a farm track field number. So what they did for us last time that they were allowed to share it is they went and said, okay, these parcels were in a program that last year, and thus these are active CLU data. Data sets in the past that we got, they had things that hadn't been in a program or hadn't registered in a couple of years, but had been previously in a program. So we went from having probably 20% too many CLU data to about 10% too few. But nonetheless, it's the best available data for what is actually having crops planted. So I'm going to show you here a little bit another tool, Python tool that we have that basically overlaps or intersects the common land unit data, which is a polygon or vector data in this case, and it overlaps with the parcel data as well. And so, again, just like we were doing for tree canopy, we have a little tool that over there, the percentage crop, we can tell you what we think the acres of a particular piece of land are in crop. And then we can also do kind of a quick percentage on the percent of the parcel that's CLU. And so this is Casey's Python script. Casey wrote this script for basically overlaying and intersecting those layers and then dissolving all of the CLUs on a particular piece of land, because typically you'll have 3 or 4 polygons or more, particularly on a large piece of property that are cropland. And so some of the limitations, it's good that the NLCD data, I'm talking about the tree canopy here, uses raster data because the zonal statistics is pretty fast. I hope to show you that. We'll see. And then the big downside as far as I'm concerned is the NLCD data only gets updated like every 6 years. And so what we're using right now is 2011. So sometimes in the photography you can see that it has been a recent harvest or the recent replanting. The NLCD data may not have the harvest or may not have the replanting because it's a little bit old. The new NLCD data is out pretty soon, so we're hoping the U.S. Forest Service will do that same routine because it's been pretty valuable to people that have the Department of North Carolina Forest Service inside them. CLU data, in my opinion, the big downside of that is it's one of these things that's confused on whether or not you can share it. Depends on how their administrative person defines the Farm Bill. Sometimes he defines it real loosely. The next time you ask, he defines it real strictly. So it's one of these things that if somebody wanted to know what percent of their parcels were ag land, they could send it to me and I could probably process it and send it back. But as far as sharing that data, it's all kind of confused and governed. So before I get any demo, any questions about that so far? So. You have that. You've shared that with me before, yeah. And I'm pretty sure I have that data set, right? No, maybe okay. That makes me feel better then, okay. I'd definitely love to get a copy of that. Well, I'll show it to you, and you can tell me if it's slow. So here's a. Oh, sorry, real quick. It is Surgo parcel data, but we've seamed it all together, so it's not county by county. We've seamed all of the soil data together, and so we pull it out of SD, but it is the Surgo soil data. So just for the record, the question is, where do you get your parcel data, or excuse me, soil data, and is it Surgo? And it is Surgo. Absolutely. We actually have map services of it as well. Nope. It wasn't the last year, but in addition, I don't know how many of y'all are soil nerds, but you know, Caswell County didn't have soil data. According to Doug right here, we have soil data for Caswell County now. So I don't know if that is of relevance to you. For us, it's like the big hole that is missing in our soil data. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know this, but ArcMap comes in 3 versions. Everybody know the 3 versions? Oh, we got a quiet group today. I didn't do a very good job of waking them up for you. So it's Arc Crash, Arc Slow, and Arc Expensive. And I'm using Arc Expensive, so I'm sure that this is all going to work if I don't get flustered here and forget what I'm doing. So basically, what we're looking at. Were you Durham? We are looking at Durham County parcels in black, and here's the CLU data. So again, we're looking at a whole bunch of CLUs on one particular property, and in my Durham County attributes, I just need to make sure that I didn't run this. Okay, in fact, I haven't. And so I'm going to go into my first tool. It's a Python tool. This is the one that does cropland. In this particular case, I got to come back and grab my parcel data. I'm not using Arc Slow. I just want to point that out too. So Doug, I'm going to let you decide if this is fast or slow. I do want to point out that ESRI considers all data sets over 100 records as big data sets, and I think I'm only using like 20 Durham County parcels, so I am cheating, Doug. So I was cheating, but that was fast. What's the most, so we have a question, what's the most parcels we've done? 300 took, how long did it take?
We compared this growth stage in only like 5 minutes.
So we do about 300 a minute. And in all fairness, I don't believe that you can be viable and create a living on like 5 acres of land or less in agriculture. There's just not that kind of profit these days. So typically if we do this for like Durham County, we'll throw out everything under 5 acres or everything with the building value is greater than the land value. And we'll look at that level. But in all fairness, if anyone wants to send me their parcel data, or I already have their parcel data, if anyone wants to tell me, Dan, on my county, all parcels between 5 and 25 acres, we'd run this. Basically what we've done here, and you guys got to ooh-ah for me. Thank you, Casey. So basically we're estimating here the percent of that particular parcel that is in crop or has a CLU on it in this case. Okay. Anybody, I was hoping the Onslow County people would be here, but moving on to Onslow. On Onslow, I'm doing a little bit more realistic here, Doug. On Onslow, I took all the parcels from 25 acres to 50 acres. And so now that I'm in the raster world, I'm looking at over 1,000 polygons. This would be a gigantic data set according to USRI. And so I'm going to come back to my tool. And we do have one for wetlands that I'm not going to demo. I'm using the wrong version for that. So, in fairness, Doug, I had one of 6,000 polygons, and it took a little while, and I didn't want to make y'all sit here and laugh at my expensive version here. But so right now I'm going to do about 1,000. How long do you think this would take realistically? 3 minutes. 3 minutes for 1,000 parcels? That's pretty good. This is regular. SSD. Man, I'm not a Fed. I can't afford that kind of thing. But I do have VGA cables.
All right.
It was quicker when we did it in the office. I can't. Everything's local, so I can't tell you why it's faster in the office than it would be here. And the NLCD data set that we're using, it's for the Sentinel landscapes. It's for the 33 counties.
You're running off battery.
No, I thought I plugged it in. So when we did this in the office, it took about a minute. Yeah. Anyway, that's a good rule of thumb for any of you guys that are new. Never do a live presentation, even though you want to. But that's pretty much all I have. I can take any more questions if there are, or we can.
So are you doing these, are you doing Python script analysis or?
Ask me that one more time.
Are you doing this manually every time, or are you planning on making Python scripts for all these?
So we already have 3 Python scripts, and the first one does percent cropland, second one does percent forest land, and last one does percent wetland. And so, yeah, I think you were dead on. I think that took about 3 minutes. So, I guess our expensive is in an acceptable range for you. But basically, what we've done now is we've determined the percent of each one of those parcels that is got tree canopy. And yes, and so some of these don't have any tree canopy at all. But basically, I'm going to go ahead and call these are forested parcels. And that's all I got.